10 things that I don't like about Latinos. Today we're going to discuss. So today we are going to discuss something that first I have to give the disclaimer that I like Latin America, I like Latin American people. However, are issues that always have to struggle to deal with is, this relationship with between, myself and the average Latino is that it's like this scene from, from this movie with Brad Pitt, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, when Brad Pitt is talking with Angelina Jolie, that she is the wife on the story, well, in the real life also. And they are with the psychologist and they say, I love my wife. I want good things for her. But sometimes it's like, oh, well, I feel just like that when I have to talk about how the average Latino, because of course you have a bunch of standard deviations and differences between Latinos of each country, but there are 10 generalities that I don't like about the average Latino, and this is something that can help you in order to navigate Latin America. So let's start. The number one is not what do you do, is what do you have. Something that probably my favorite thing about people from the West, mostly from the United States and a handful of other countries, not all Western countries have this particular trait, is that you guys value a lot skills. And it's something that I love about Western people, mostly the US and several other Western countries. Not on all Western countries. I'm seeing exceptions that I'm not going to say. But that's what I love working with Western clients. Also, I have clients that are non-Western clients, but that's from another. However, in Latin America, doesn't happen like that. People in Latin America, I'm talking the average, they don't value skills. They value wealth. Is not what do you do, is what do you have. Regarding, they value status. Because now I also have to be, empathic with my fellow Latinos, is because unlike the US, where you can become successful and make something out of yourself if you work very hard, and that's why hustle and bustle and doing rah and work very hard and that thing, because I see this a lot from the US, especially these particular influencers like Gary Vaynerchuk or Jocko Willink. Basically every male American influencer talks like that, and I think it's a good thing. However, in Latin America, it's not gonna be the case, because you are gonna make something in Latin America. There are a handful of cases where people work very hard and become very successful and millionaire and things like that. But in most cases, it's not gonna be the case. It's either people who have access to the few opportunities, a handful of opportunities that you have in Latin America compared to the Western countries, or people who do things sometimes illegally, like the dealers, if you catch my drift, or politicians, corrupt politicians, things like that. So sadly, it's a survival thing that you want to mingle with the richest people that you can. But there is a caveat, and that's the thing that we are going to discuss on the second thing. The second thing is actually bad networking. Here's what happens. Latinos are very emotional. So it's more like how is the vibe, how is the feeling, and things like that. So what happens is that in order to actually become successful, you know the particular saying that your network is your net worth, and also the thing that if you surround yourself, you're going to be the result of the 5 people that you surround yourself the most. Agree on both things. So what happens is that the average Latino, remember this, the particular, caveat on this video is the average Latino, and not every Latino is average by definition. But what happens is that they like hanging out to the cool guy, very funny, they like to party a lot and things like that. That, okay, he could be a very great guy. Most of the time, those people are great people. The issue is that is not the guy that you are gonna make business or learn or make do some synergy in order to grow in life. And most of the time, the minority of Latinos that become successful at something or whatever may be the case, they are not going to be usually the fun guy, the party guy, usually going to be a little bit more boring, has more boring hobbies like reading, like, listening to classical music, going to the opera, things like that. Although that guy is boring. So the Latino, when they do networking, and most of the time they do they do good networking at the end because they have a bunch of friends and things like that. So on that regard, it's cool, but not necessarily the right network. So they give too much value to certain intangible things that, okay, cool, but they just get apart someone that can become very valuable, but don't see it just on the first glance unless he becomes rich and successful. And yet again, it's a synergy between number one and number two. Number three is that they are very solipsistic. Yet again, average Latino. What happens is that if you ask someone in Latin America, how is your country doing? They're going to give you only their particular personal experience, rather if it's good or if it's bad, not talking about the macro picture. So the average Latino, not all, but the average Latino have this particular barrier in order to see more beyond that just their own particular situation. Number four is lack of economic knowledge and financial knowledge. And this is my case because, of course, that's one of my specialties, economics and finances. And they struggle a lot. I don't know why the average Latino struggles so much in order to understand basic economics and basic finances. Things like interest rates or how the economy is doing good or doing bad is something that the average Latino struggles a lot, and has been very frustrating for myself year over year over year over year when you only have to discuss basic things about economics and finance. And they always, and actually they give me a lot of pushback. Oh no, I'm mistaken. I have a couple of master's degrees on these particular areas of expertise, and they they rebate me everything that I say. I've been in several situations like that, and of course, I've been in other occasions that they are very humble and want to know a little bit more about economics and finance and try to explain. But I got a lot of pushback because I'm saying something that is true, but it's not what they like, but it's true. I mean, it's like saying the sky is blue or roses are red. Number five is lack of political knowledge. And this is something that can make or break a complete generation of Latinos depending on the country. Something that I mention a lot is that in Latin America, politics matter so much. It's not like the US that Democrats and Republicans, that regardless of who it wants, the country is not going to tear itself apart. However, in Latin America, one presidential term that gets elected, a bad candidate gets elected, can wreck the entire economy. I've seen a lot of cases. And the sad part is that the average Latino doesn't know much about economics or politics. And what they end up doing most of the time is voting for the most popular candidate, the most populist candidate, that most of the time is the worst candidate. And now what happens also when the country survives one or two presidential terms, bad presidential terms, what happens is that they swift back to normalcy. However, sometimes those countries in Latin America are not as lucky. They cannot survive the first bad presidential term, and after years and decades, they suffer a lot, and the economy gets completely wrecked. And that's why you see a lot of Latinos migrating to the rest of the world, because the country becomes next to impossible in order to create wealth from scratch. Number six is a lack of understanding other cultures. Here's what happens. Something that, since, my job makes me travel and speak with different people all over the world. And when I'm speaking to the average Latino and old friends, neighbors, things like that, how other countries work is, they see me like I'm an alien or something like that. It's not something alien. It's something how these particular countries work and compared to Latin America, an average Latin American country, even difference between every country in Latin America. So they always, and I think that I'm mistaken, and then think that the other society is mistaken. And I say, dude, those guys have better standards of living, have a better culture, better infrastructure. How can you say that you are better than them? That is not the case. So they struggle a lot to understand foreign cultures. Something that actually, I'm going to make this book note, usually the lower IQ people, the underachievers at any given country lack to understand. Number 7 is lack of planning. The Latino usually lives day by day, depending on the case, but I'm seeing it from, let's say, construction workers that actually they make a decent money for Latin American standards within Latin America. And then, they just spend the whole money after they got paid on parties and drinking and things like that. That's one thing. And the other thing, but even I'm seeing it with doctors. I know a bunch of doctors, lawyers, very successful, people in Latin America. They just blow everything that they make. Even people that make, let's say, decent money for Latin American standards. So lack of planning. Number 8 is intolerance of failure. The average Latino is very afraid to make something new, to displease someone, take risks like doing business or investing and things like that. And every time that someone actually dares to try something new, he gets criticized a lot within Latin America. Let's say, things from starting a far-fetched business or creating content or something like that. So the Latino is, has that particular problem of dealing with risk. Number 9 is lack of empirical intelligence. Something that happens is that usually the Latino has this mindset that they try to more go with the flow regarding society. And when there is clear evidence in front of your eyes that contradicts what everything you saw before, they hesitate a lot, they scream and kick a lot before understanding that reality is different compared to your belief. And number 10 is this particular soap opera mindset that some average Latinos have regarding, the drama, the emotion, depending on their, let's say, personal life, and they bring that to their business life. And, of course, it's a beautiful thing depending on the particular occasion. But many times, it gets tiresome to see this particular, soap opera mindset on the average Latino, at least some average Latino. So that will be all for today. Yet again, this is just food for thought. I love Latin America. I love Latinos. I love the people in Latin America overall. And I know many of you also love Latin America. And actually, you think those are good things. They are features, not bugs, on the average Latino. But yet again, some things that I have struggled on everyday basis. So, just food for thought for this week. Thank you for watching Continental Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. And if you want to work with us, continentalinsider.com. Thanks again, and have a nice day.